What are you making?
I'm mixing up a stew to give corporate a different view. Have a taste. Welcome to the corporate kitchen. I'm your host, Tiger, and today on the menu is lunch. No, seriously, lunch. The time that you spend either working through or eating a meal or doing other things. Lunch is a very important topic when we talk about corporate America because it's one of the few times we can talk about something fun when we're taking a break and we're not doing physical work. It is something that everyone should indulge in. Some people do it a little too much, but it's very critical for your success. Again, we want you thriving. Everything that we talk about here is to put you in a thriving state. Lunch is one of those things that tends to be forgotten about as you go through your workday. Some people work through their lunch and push through. Other people make it a point to ensure they take that pause and eat something. So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into lunch. According to the Merriam-Webster, the definition of lunch as a noun is 1, a usually light meal, especially one taken in the middle of the day. 2, the food prepared for lunch. That's funny. They use the word in the definition, so we're obviously not going to go with that one. We're going to go with 1, and I don't understand why they put 1A because we didn't get it. Oh, sorry. It's not 1A. I read that wrong. It's 1, a usually light meal. There we go. So 1 is a usually light meal, especially one taken in the middle of the day. That is the definition that we're going to go with as we talk about lunch in this episode. Couple key things that I want you to take away from that definition. A usually light meal. Key word there, usually. It can vary. Sometimes your lunches are heavy. Sometimes your lunches are nothing. Sometimes your lunches is a light meal. Usually it's a light meal. It's not as heavy as what you would do for dinner. And it might be a little bit heavier than what you did for breakfast, but there is some level of consistency with your lunch. And that's the key word here, consistency. And that's very synonymous with the word usually. The second thing I want you to remember off this definition, the second part, especially one taken in the middle of the day. Middle is the key word. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in one of our takeaways. When you take lunch, it should be in the middle of the day. It should be something that breaks up your day by as close to in half as possible. If you're taking lunch 5 minutes before you clock out, that's not lunch. If you take lunch as soon as you walk in, that's not lunch. It's usually in the middle of the day in order to break your workday up, potentially in half. Now, I know for some of you, you don't work first shift, and that's okay. That's a little bit different. Your lunches they tend to be dinners, or if you're an overnight shift, they may be even your breakfast. So to level set this conversation, we got to stick to first shift, 9 to 5ers, people who are working throughout the day and actually touch, quote unquote, the lunch hour. The first thing that we have to talk about, first takeaway here, we have to talk about with our lunches though, before we even dive into what time of day we have lunch, it's on the lunch facilities themselves. The first takeaway are facilities are not superior. We had a conversation about this in one of our earlier episodes about the pandemic and returning to office. And I mentioned how the facilities have gotten lazy. They have not been as good as they were pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, you can get some good lunch food. That of course, standard Taco Tuesdays, standard, something on Thursdays, but sandwiches were always there. The salad bar was always there. The variety wasn't necessarily there, but the quality of the food was. Ever since the pandemic, our facilities has not been as superior as they used to. And for those of you that are entering the corporate workforce, I want you to be wary of that. Even if you're at a tech company who had really nice, culinary benefits prior to the pandemic, it's not as nice as it was. Even if I mean, we can go as extreme as the Deloitte Training Center. That place pre-pandemic was like amazing, and now it's like it doesn't have as great as a feel to it as it did before. I mean, it's still great, but not as it was before. The facilities have definitely taken a step down just in general, just clean across the board. And I know some of you are like, well, that's why I bring my lunch, or this is why I always go out to eat and go to the nearest fast food restaurant. If you're one of those people, great. If you were one of those people before the pandemic, even better, because you already have introduced that consistency into your routine and ensure that you got a good meal. We're not going to talk about the quality of those meals outside of our working facility, but more than likely they've probably decreased as well. It's just how the world has been changing over the last couple decades. Again, for those of you entering the corporate workforce for the first time, the facilities are not great. A lot of people choose to bring their lunch or skip their lunch or go off site for lunch rather than actually eating in the facilities. If you work in a place where you all are super bougie and your food is very nice, congratulations to you. You are in the minority. For the majority of us, it's pretty standard. I do know like my facility has like a Chick-fil-A in the cafeteria as well as other restaurants. So we kind of brought the fast food inside. That's kind of cheating. Like that's kind of like, hey, our facilities aren't the greatest, so let me go ahead and borrow and bring in other facilities to help make ours better. You'll see that at a lot of places too. I mean, it just like for some high schools where they have the fast food pizza and other places inside their cafeteria, same thing for corporate. They'll bring in outside places to come in and provide the culinary expertise to feed the individuals. And if you're really lucky, I mean, you could work in a building where they have a full blown food court. Even then, the quality, I mean, isn't as great, but at least you have better options than others. Just know that they're just not superior anymore. The facilities that we get for eating, not as great as what they used to be, even when we talk about fast food. So that leaves you with a decision to make. Do you spend the money and continue going through purchasing either company sponsored facilities or the outside fast food companies brought in? Do you bring your own lunch? Do you go off site, go to a restaurant or something for lunch? That is a decision you're going to have to make. If you're new to corporate America, you also have to make that decision monetary as well in your budget. It's a very different budget from going and bringing your lunch every day to going out to eat every day. Two totally different things. But just keep in the back of your mind, it's not as great as what it used to be. And you see that with everything that you go to the store and purchase as far as food items, that they're just not as great as what they used to be. The facilities, we got to improve on the facilities. That being said, it's still not a bad idea to utilize them if yours is pretty good or decent. I know that, again, there are certain industries in which you have access to a full blown food court in the building, or you all have very nice, cook for you type chefs or fast food restaurants that are brought into your not necessarily food court style, but more cafeteria style area that helps bring in some better foods to your own building so that you don't have to drive, you don't have to take the time to leave, come back with food. And that works very well. And at the end of the day, just know you do need to eat though. I mean that's what it comes down to. You do need to eat. And that walks us in right to our second takeaway. You need to eat. The key takeaway is number 2, skipping lunch is a form of self neglect. It is a form of self. And I can flip this and say that eating lunch is a form of self-care, which is really what I want to say, but we got to be a little bit more direct and hit it where it's home. And the best analogy I can give you for this is lunch is just like desserts. Desserts that you eat. Desserts in moderation, fantastic. Whether it's sweet, whether it's savory, whether it's that ice cream extra oomph that you need right after dinner, desserts in moderation are really uplifting. And that's what lunch is supposed to be. It's supposed to be uplifting. But if you indulge in desserts a little too much, there will be consequences. Just like if you indulged in lunch for a little too long, could be consequences. If you eat too much dessert, it could give you a tummy ache because you already had dinner. Or if you had too much sweets, it could give you a headache or you can crash. If you are lactose intolerant and you had too much ice cream, you could be paying for that later. All those different examples, same thing for lunch. If you ate too much food for lunch, it could affect your ability to perform for the rest of your workday because now you have to go use the lavatory or you have to take some Tums Pepto in order to settle your stomach, and you can't put 100% of your brain power into your work because you're more focused about taking care of your body. We talked about this multiple times. Your body, your health is number one. If there's something going wrong, obviously you need to go take care of that. You need to address that to ensure that you are your best self because you can't perform to your highest capabilities if you're not feeling your best. If you eat the wrong foods during lunch, if you're lactose intolerant and you have the lactose, or for some reason you get that gas station sushi and you wanted to roll the dice and try that because that's going to be quick, or you have the curry, something that doesn't agree with your stomach all that well, you could incidentally have consequences that affect your ability to perform for the rest of the day. When we think about desserts, it's usually in relation to dinner. You have dinner, then dessert comes after. Relating that back to lunch, it's you work for a period of time, then you have lunch. So there is a predecessor to lunch. There is some exertion that's done that helps build your appetite and prepares you for your lunch. And with desserts, we usually use dinner to kind of level set what we're going to do for dessert. If we know that we want to go a little bit heavy on dessert, we won't go as heavy as dinner. If we know we're going to go light on dessert, probably have, a small creme brulee with a coffee, you may go a little bit heavier on dinner. Regardless, the point is there's a balance between dinner and dessert, and there should be. If you're indulging in both, you're probably not at your best self. But if you are, you recognize that there is a balance that has to happen between the two. This is the exact same as lunch and the work done before lunch. If you wake up and you start work, you don't have breakfast until 10 minutes before you had your lunch, you didn't do the proper balancing at all. In fact, that's going to be an imbalance because it's like you didn't do what you needed to do to prepare for your lunch. But if you wake up, work, regardless of where you take that breakfast in, as long as it's, earlier, you do your work, you build up to lunch, and now you take in your lunch, that balance, that agreement will help propel you for the rest of the day. And that's the whole purpose, right? When we indulge in dessert, it's supposed to catalyze something. We're not doing dessert just to say, hey, I enjoy indulging in sweets. Let me just savor my sweet tooth every single day. Remember when we talked about the definition of lunch, one of the key things we highlighted was a usually light meal, usually pointing towards consistency. If we're consistently having dessert and indulging in sweets, we know that that would be very consequential to our health. That would not be a net positive effect on our health. We have to have some moderation in there where one day you do sweets, one day you mix it up and you do something else. Maybe you have tea for dinner. Maybe you have just a coffee for dinner. Whatever it is, you're mixing it up so that you're not overdoing one specific area to an extent that's detrimental to your health. It's the same thing. Dessert, lunch, kind of the same thing there. You don't want to indulge in lunch to the point where it's detrimental to the work that you have to do after lunch. You want to make sure that it's something light, something that you can absorb. Obviously, we all have to use the lavatory. So if it's something that requires you to use the lavatory after, you're your best judge on your body, and you're able to understand if it's something that's going to hold you for a 5-minute bathroom break versus a 35-minute bathroom break. You know what does certain things to your digestive system. I'll let you be the judge of that. But that's kind of where the light meal comes in, where it is something light, so that if it is something that disrupts your digestive tract, it's not going to do it in a significant level where you're out of commission for the next hour. And if it is something that does that, hopefully you're not indulging in it. Just like with desserts, if you're lactose intolerant, it, you should not be having a pint of ice cream. Please don't do that. Otherwise, you're going to have the consequences for it later. But going back to the key takeaway, skipping it is a form of self neglect. You shouldn't skip lunch. Honestly, you shouldn't skip dessert either. Dessert is great. But when we talk about lunch, it is what's supposed to propel you for the rest of the day. It is supposed to be a catalyzer and make sure that you're nourished, both from a physical sense and a mental health standpoint, to get through the rest of the day. I think when a lot of people think about lunch and are analyzing their lunch, they're thinking on the physical food. I need to address my hunger in my stomach by eating something. The other part of it too, when we talk about your health, it's a full-blown, full body assessment. So it's just not your body that needs to be satisfied. It's also your mind. It's your mental health. And taking that pause, that break and from the work, stopping what you're doing, because it's a complete stop. When you go from working to taking lunch, that is a full 180 pivot. You stop what you're doing and you transition to going to lunch. That gives your brain a break. That gives your muscles time to relax. A lot of us with office jobs where we're sitting at our desk for more than 7 hours a day, you know all the damage that's doing to your body. To take the time, even if you don't walk for the rest of the day, taking that time to get out your chair, go grab your lunch, taking some time away from the desk to sit maybe in a different chair to have the lunch, or maybe outside, get you some vitamin D, whatever, does so much better for you than just sitting at your desk, skipping lunch, and continuing the work. You need it for your self-care. If you're not doing it, you are neglecting yourself. And I know there are critical situations in which you have deadlines that you have to meet, or maybe it's a financial thing where you're trying to work all the hours as possible to build up some overtime. There are situations that require the very, very rare occurrence where you need to work through it. But again, going back to the definition, usually on a consistent level, you should be taking lunch. You should be taking care of yourself. When you come into corporate America, one of the standards that you have to set for yourself, one of the precedents that you have to set in your character and image is whether or not you take lunch. when you come in, notice that with your friends too. When you decide what you're going to do, and let's say, for example, you're going to take lunch, take note of what everybody else does. There will be a group of people with you that are more than likely start the path of, hey, I'll take lunch. Yeah, we'll all take lunch. We'll all eat together. See how long people hold it afterwards. Do people really commit to that? It will take probably a solid 6 months, 3 to 6 months to establish the routine that you will do for your lunch. I know it's like it takes less than 30 days to build a habit. Sure. But when you're new to corporate America, there's so many variables that will affect the way that you do things. As you learn more tips and tricks, you add it to your repertoire. As you learn more about business acumen and navigating corporate America, you will adjust accordingly. So, really, in that first year, you're not establishing a lot besides your schedule, but you do set a lot of precedents. You do commit to a lot of things, such as, do you answer your phone after hours? Do you work after hours? Do you work weekends? What time do you show up to work? What time do you take lunch? What time do you leave the office? A year in, you've pretty much established where those variables lie. And the variable we're obviously talking about today is, do you or do you not take lunch? If you don't take lunch and you make that a habit, even if it's out of a 5-day work week, you do it 2 times a week where you don't take lunch. People will recognize that and treat you as if you never take lunch. They will treat you like, hey, I know you can skip lunch. Let me give you this deadline during the lunch hour because you've already shown me that you can skip it. You'll just skip it today. Oh, it's one of the 3 days you take lunch. That's no big deal. You can skip it today because I've seen that you did it. And then there are all those people that do set that precedence that, hey, I do take lunch and I am gone for these 30 minutes or this hour. And people will recognize that and respect it. Oh, it's 12. I won't set a meeting on your calendar because I know you're gone 12 to 1 every day. Oh, it's coming up to 12. It's 11:55. I know you're about to take your lunch hour. Let's wrap up this meeting. People will respect it if you set that precedence. And it's also going to be a form of self-care for you. If you can set that precedence, people will recognize it, react positively. I mean, you can't really react negatively to it when people show you. Like if you don't work nights, you just don't do that. If you don't bring your computer home, it's like, oh, you're the worst employee. No, I just don't do that, right? People will respect it once they see that for the first time, and they will react accordingly and treat you accordingly to support whatever you're doing. If you're at a corporation or an industry that doesn't allow you to take lunch, I'm very sorry to hear that. I know, obviously, there are very labor intensive industries that have very weird schedules, which is why I set the precedence in this conversation that we're really talking about 9 to 5ers, first shifters. There are some industries where they are on, and taking a lunch break is just not going to happen because it's very labor intensive, very manual labor. They have to work. Understood for those group of people. Keep doing what you're doing because I know your job is much harder than the one that I do. For the rest of us, there's no reason you should not be taking lunch. Outside of the rare occasions that we talked about, on a consistent basis, take your lunch. Skipping it is a form of self-neglect. You don't want to neglect your health, especially if you're starting off in corporate America. If you're new to corporate America and you're trying to establish who you are, one of the things that you need to make sure is in your character book and your profile is, I take lunch. And remember, lunch is usually a light meal. Consistently, it's usually a light meal. So as we relate this back to the desserts, obviously you hear desserts consistently. That does not mean that we're having a turtle sundae every night. This can be as simple as one bar of the Hershey chocolate. It counts as a dessert. So non-caffeinated tea without honey or sugar can count as dessert. You're indulging in something consistently. It's light. It's not necessarily healthier every time, but it is light and it is contributing to your well-being as you look to close the day. Dessert is usually right after dinner, and it's usually towards the end of the day. I know overseas they take dinners early, but here in the United States of America, it's usually later at night. Most people do dinner after 6 or around 6. Some people may go all the way up to 5:30, but if you're 9 to 5 working, kind of hard to do 5:30. So let's say between 6 and 8 p.m., people are having dinner. That's usually the finale of the night. Wrapping up, have your dessert. Dessert helps catalyze you to finish the night. If you are someone that works out at night, obviously you may use dessert for a different purpose to help catalyze your workout, but that also highlights the fact that it is playing a role. It's playing a role to help you finish your night, except your night is not sleeping, it's working out first, then sleeping. So, with all this talk about indulging and ensuring that we're having the lunch, the other part of the definition is going to lead us to our third takeaway. And going back to the definition again, the second part is especially one taken in the middle of the day. The third takeaway is not that it's in the middle of the day, but it is related to it. The third takeaway is lunch is a form of networking. One of the things that you will learn quickly about networking is that it is hard to find time. When you're working all day, it is very difficult to identify 30 minutes, 25 minutes, sometimes even 15 minutes to sit down with someone just for the intentions of talking and getting to know the person. You're going to find it very hard. You're going to be very busy. There's just going to be so many things going on. A lot of people choose to take their networking opportunities post work, happy hours, social events, the golf outing, some random kids event. A lot of people choose to take advantage of post work opportunities to do their networking because it's that difficult to find time during work. And if they do, especially when you're networking with senior leadership, the timing is usually like a sacrificial where I'm going to use this time to network and go to this meeting with this executive. That means that something else falls off. It becomes a trade off where I'm prioritizing the networking instead of whatever else you were going to do at that time. And that's okay. I'm not telling you that that's wrong. I'm just letting you know that it does become sacrificial sometimes where it's like, okay, I got to do what I got to do to build my network. And that means I take a hit somewhere else. Obviously, get your work done, obviously, perform to the greatest that you can. But it's difficult. It's difficult to find that time. One of the things you can do to remedy that is utilize the lunch hour, the lunchtime. That is a great time to use for networking. That is a great opportunity to say, hey, let's go grab lunch, whether that's in your facility, whether that's in your food court, offsite, brought lunch, and we're going to chat in a conference room or in an office. It is an excellent opportunity to use as a form of networking. And if you're one of those people that don't like eating by yourself, it's also nice. You can double down and not eat by yourself. If you started off in corporate America and you established and set that precedence that you are going to take lunch, all your peers decided, nah, we'll just work through the lunch period. And now you're trying to find people to have lunch with you. It's a great form of networking and feeding out people. I mean, it's like the classic first date. Hey, let's go out to eat for the first date. you're kind of doing that sort of thing with networking where, hey, let's go for lunch so that we can get to know one another. And since lunch is usually a light meal, it's not going to be anything heavy. You can use it as an opportunity to have a little bit more conversation because you're not going to be eating a 7-course meal. You're going to be eating something light, and there will be the chance to both satisfy the hunger and satisfy potentially some conversation and get to know someone. Breakfast is usually not good because everyone has different times in which they start the day. You mix in travel time as well, and it gets a little bit difficult to align those types of schedules. Dinner time, same thing, but in a very more extreme way. There are a lot more variables when it comes to dinner time. If people have families, people have spouses, people have pets, it's kind of hard to align when it comes to dinner. Happy hour is usually good and post work events because those are usually scheduled, set in stone. It's not necessarily a one-on-one or a intimate sort of gathering. It's more of a normalized public gathering. So it's a lot easier to maneuver. And when I say maneuver, in and out. If you and I are having dinner and the conversation doesn't go well, it's kind of awkward to say to end that type of engagement. If it's at a company event, company happy hour, and you attend and the networking's not going well or the conversation's not going well or you're just not jiving with the audience, you can just leave, no problem. That's not an issue. Lunch also provides you that level of flexibility as well, where if you meet someone for lunch and the conversation isn't going well, you finish your lunch and it's like, all right, I got to get back to work. Appreciate the conversation. It's about time. There is no commitment when it comes to having lunch and having lunch with other people. Mind you, it is something you have to be wary of. So if you went to the cafeteria every single day, you sat at a table with someone, didn't jive well, you didn't say anything to them, and you went back to lunch and intentionally sat at a different table, they may feel some type of way about it. So there may needs to be some communication to kind of close that loop. However, at the same time, in that initial meeting, though, you're not forced. It's not a forced engagement where you must sit with me through the whole hour and we have to talk about all this. There is a lot of flexibility when it comes to the lunch period, and it allows you to use it as a networking session. When we talk about networking is usually 30 minutes max for typical engagements. That's plenty of time to eat and have a conversation pretty quickly, or to wrap it up quickly, or to extend it a little bit longer. That is a lot of flexibility there for you to be adaptable to go down any type of lane that you need because you're accomplishing two tasks: eating and conversing. M- The other key point when it comes to using it as a form of networking, again, if we're doing number two, if we're doing the second takeaway, that means lunch would be as critical to you as it is to them. You both are going to be able to satisfy a need regardless of how the conversation goes. If you two don't hit it off and find a ship between the two, whether it's mentorship, coachship, sponsorship, friendship, whatever, at least you two ate. And that's the plus side. And we'll get more people open to always doing it. Same thing kind of with happy hour, where, if the conversation doesn't go great, at least you got a drink sort of thing. But that's post work. This is during the office, which makes it even more advantageous for both people because you're already in the office. You're already there. You're already into the same committed space. Now you're just saying, hey, let's take a moment from our office and desk to meet and satisfy a need that we both need at the same time so that we can have a conversation. Instead of, hey, when you're done for the day and you're working all day, you've decided that you're through. Do you mind not driving home and driving over to the happy hour so that we can have a drink and a conversation? It depends. Have to see the schedule. Instead of, hey, you're in the office. Do you want to take a break and have lunch? That conversation is so much easier. It is a ability to use as a form of networking. Again, similar to desserts. Desserts can be a form of networking too. If you're at the right place, right time, it could be a form of networking. If you're eating and next door is the ice cream shop, guess what? Hey, we slide on over. Or if your dinner wasn't great, and you're looking for dessert, you may be able to go somewhere and meet people there for dessert. Or let's say you're home. You're home, you had dinner, now you're looking for dessert. Call someone up. Hey, you want to go to a creamery to go get ice cream? Do you want to go to this custard place? Do you want to go to a Cinnabon type place where you can get something like that, or a cookie place? You can use it as a form of networking too. That's obviously going to be a lot harder to do because that's after dinner and that's when everyone's home and living their own life. So there are certain ships that will allow you to explore that, mainly the romantic ships types that you could use that to your advantage in order to progress a relationship. However, when we talk about corporate network ships and the coaching to build that corporate network, don't skip out on lunch because that would be a great opportunity. So let's get ready to wrap this up. About a minute left in this. Let's talk about lunch one more time and go over these key takeaways. Number one, facilities are not what they used to be. They're not as superior as what they are. Again, lunch is usually a light meal. So it's not like you need the best thing ever, but geez, especially you newbies coming in, it's just the food is just not as good as what it used to be. Two, skipping it is a form of self-neglect. Please do not skip lunch. Please make sure you eat it, especially in the middle of the day. When we talk on Thursday, I'll tell you about one of my friends that just eats lunch so late and he's like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, yeah, what do you think? You eat lunch at like 3 o'clock. What do you mean? We're going to be done working. So we'll talk more on Thursday about that. But don't skip it. Skipping it is a form of self-neglect. And then the third takeaway, it could be used as a form of networking. You could take the opportunity to have a networking session with someone during the lunchtime. It's a consistent meal that's taken by a lot of people. That consistency will also drive opportunities and potential opportunity for you to have that sit down conversation. Again, when we talk on Thursdays, I'll tell you and give you some firsthand examples of me doing that. And when I say that it's more valuable than anything, it's great. It's great sound bites because lunch is usually, at least for me, lunch is usually 30 minutes. Between eating and talking, it's really only a solid, and buying the food. Between buying the food, sitting down, eating, you only get a solid 20 minutes of talking. So it requires you to be very intentional about the conversation and choose your words, questions carefully because you don't really have the time. Just like you would if you were sitting in this person's office having the networking conversation. It requires you to be a little bit strategic about the time that you have left. And with that, we'll turn off this stove, take off the thinking apron, and let's just say the dishes will get done later. This topic wasn't a big mess, but if we learned something today, then we know there's a little cleaning up to do. I do want to talk this topic more, maybe trade stories about this soon, like this Thursday soon. I hope to see you there. Thanks for being in the corporate kitchen today. I'm your host, Tiger. Until next time.